technical knowledge and we have a lot of broad business knowledge. And our approach is to try to bring those things together.
There's like the HR talent experience team, and then there's the IT team, and they're always butting heads like this. Prime for siloed people, cliques, and people talking around each other, and there being rumors, so it doesn't feel like a cohesive team a lot of the time.
The team that's focused solely on traditional IT is not positioned well to help with how technology could be more strategically used in the business, right? They care about desktop support and making sure that the network is secure.
Giving them a tool doesn't make someone successful. Being able to use that tool to solve a business problem is what makes them successful.
Where we tend to focus is kind of that layer above, where we try to take all of those technology and those tools that you have as an organization and help you leverage them at that business user level so that you're effectively accomplishing your mission in the most efficient way possible.
Because you want every employee, from a person who's managing an office all the way to somebody out in the field or even executive level, you want all of them to be working together.
How do we optimize them? How do we bring them into a technology world where it can do things for us instead of relying on a manual process?
What I care about is that you have the right tool for the job. And so to that end, we're gonna evaluate that and tell you, no, don't do it with that tool. If you're able to use technology more effectively, the people that are supposed to be focused on the mission of the organization can actually do more missional things because the tech is handling the rest.
Having a successful outcome of the project, there's no question that we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. We set ourselves up as an organization that is our focus, that's our guiding light, and so it pervades everything we do. Bulb Digital helps organizations transform their business using technology.
We help businesses use technology better so that their people work better together.
All right, welcome everyone. Hey, welcome to Bulb Digital Office Hours. This is Wednesday of October, the first Wednesday of every month. We sit down and answer you guys' questions. So if this is your first time here, I'll give a little rundown of how this works, but you're either seeing us through Teams or through YouTube. If you're on our Teams, that means you registered before the event, and we love when people register because then on Teams we can take you off mute and have a conversation about whatever business problem or initiative that you're working on. If you're on YouTube, we can only kind of talk with you through the chat. So if you have questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. Again, Teams, you can throw those in the Teams chat. On YouTube, you can throw those in the YouTube chat. We have 2 questions that have already been submitted, so we're going to get started with those. But before we start, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Emma. I've been at Bulb Digital 2 years now, which is crazy. And I'm a project manager with us, so I focus a lot on how we can use the Microsoft tools within the project management space. Go for it, Mike.
Cool. I'm Mike. I'm one of the founders here at Bulb Digital. Been here, I don't know, it's 10 years now, I think, officially, which is pretty cool and exciting.
He had to one-up me on that, but so, that's all right.
Congrats on your 2 years, by the way.
Thanks.
And I do a lot of technical stuff and design thinking and no-code, low-code development and things like that. So that's a lot of my expertise. But I especially love helping people solve problems with technology. So.
Awesome. And looking to see where everyone else is joining from today. Hey, we got someone from New Zealand. I have cousins who live in New Zealand over in Wellington. Very cool. Welcome. And looks like we've got a few other people on our Teams meeting as well. I actually see Eric is joined, and I think we have a question from Eric, I believe, if it's the same Eric, that we're going to kind of get started with. So let me switch over to that screen. And before we dive in, I do want to say, no matter what questions we go through, if they're really technologically focused or if they're very simple or more focused on modern work, anything in that spectrum counts. So don't feel like you have to one-up the next person if they ask a really tech deep question.
There's no stupid questions either, right?
No stupid questions, exactly. All right, so the one that we are going to start with was from last September. They submitted it. This one's from Peter. I'll read it out, and then, Mike, I think you've got an answer. Peter writes, I'm developing a Power App for my company that is very complex in functionality, and it has over 750 components and code. Now Power App Studio is running very slow between updates. What are your thoughts on this, and when will Microsoft make the studio handle large enterprise Power App solutions?
That's a really good question. So,
good question.
Your app sounds very complex. That's a lot of components, probably more than I would advise. There is, I don't know the hard limit. If Matt Dressel's listening, maybe he can chime in the chat. There might be a hard limit per screen for components or something like that. I don't know it off the top of my head. But one of the first things that you should recognize is that when you're building apps in the Power Platform, you're inside of a web browser. And so you're limited to the memory capabilities of your machine and your web browser because that's where a lot of that stuff is happening. So if you have an especially complex flow, for example, with lots and lots of actions in it and nesting and stuff like that, it's just going to take a long time to load sometimes. It is a pain in the butt. On the Power Automate side of things, the way that you can work around that is to break up your functionality or the things that you're doing inside of your flow into child flows and then put that stuff into a solution, and then you can call child flows. On the Power App side of things, I would, if your app is that complex and it's important and valuable for the enterprise, one of the things that I would tell you to look at would be porting it over to a model-driven app if possible. So that means you would use Dataverse as the back end, and then you would rely on a lot of the out-of-the-box features of model-driven apps, forms, views, WYSIWYG design. It's not like a Canvas app in that you're not painting pixel-perfect screens, but you can embed Canvas apps into your model-driven app forms when you need to, or as a custom page. There are a lot of options there when you have more complex or unique user experience or use case scenarios. But if you jump over to that model-driven side of things, a lot of that stuff is just going to be built in for you. You're going to be less apt to add custom things to a screen or to your form to make things work. If you think about SharePoint form integration or bringing SharePoint content into a Canvas app form, the form itself has like this nested layers of components, being the data card and the error message label and like all of these things. It just, you multiply the number of components by the number of fields you have, and it just gets big really quick. So I would look at some alternatives in that world.
So we did just have another team member who's kind of listening in post a link that might be helpful in our team chat. We'll copy that over to the YouTube chat as well if Peter is joined through there. But awesome. Yeah, Peter's on YouTube. So we'll copy that over so that you can have access to that. Thanks for joining, Peter, and thank you for submitting your question beforehand. All right, let's move on to question number 2, unless you have more thoughts on what Matt is typing.
Nope,
okay.
I think that's good. I definitely would check out that link.
Yeah.
There's some limits there that'll give you some kind of
Guidance.
guidelines to stay inside of. Yep.
Sweet. All right, second question that was submitted is from Eric. He's joining us via Teams. So Eric, we'll allow your mic here. I'm just going to read out your question, and we'll give you a quick response, and then we can come off mute and chat. So you mentioned we're a Microsoft 365 shop, Teams, mostly Microsoft apps in use. However, Planner has been a no-go, and management decided to go with Smart Sheets. Dun, 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 for project management. Please tell me there will be ammunition provided by Microsoft to bring Planner back into consideration. Predecessors in Gantt view at no extra charge for Microsoft 365 E5ers would be a nice opening, for sure. Well, we discussed this question right before we got on this, and we've got our resident planner expert, Mitch, behind the scenes here. He had some thoughts. Mitch, do you want to give a quick overview first?
Only after you.
Oh, okay. Well, all I was going to say is I think all of us are feeling a little bit discouraged by Microsoft's messaging around the new Planner and Planner Premium, and just the way they've decided to slice and dice the features into the free or paid premium versions. All of us, well, actually, there's some debate. You don't think it's necessarily that bad that you have to pay the $10 extra for the subscription for those?
I don't know that I would say it's necessarily so bad. So my take on it is Microsoft Project, the former king of project management tools, had Gantt charts and resource leveling and all of those fancy features in it, right?
Yep.
And those have a lot of value for enterprises, and you ought to pay for them. You can easily justify that. And so that's the world we're coming from. We're transitioning into this new world where now there's maybe a quasi-free tool inside of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem in Planner. While that's really great, it was originally put there to compete with things like Trello and Monday, right, and all of those things. And so they were trying to fill that space. And now people are saying, well, I'm a Microsoft 365 shop. I want all of my things there. And so it's logical. And so I think they're bringing those two worlds together. That said, if you want those more, enterprise level features, it makes sense that you would pay for them. Now, to me, the interesting part of your question is, why don't they build those things in for the E5ers?
Yeah.
Right? And I think you could make the case for that. If I'm paying for an E5 license, give me a little bit of extra. And I think that's where it's possible that like the Microsoft marketing and sales team will catch up to that user voice. You just got to make more of that user voice out there.
Right.
And so that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not speaking for Microsoft, but that's the part of the question that's like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe.
And we haven't necessarily seen any messaging that's said that would happen,
Right.
but we have been a part of different Microsoft tap groups where we're giving feedback. So we would also encourage other people to give Microsoft that feedback of, hey, our whole company is not using Planner at all because we're not able to access these through our E5 licenses, but we would be really open to moving everything in the Microsoft suite, which might mean more licenses, which might mean more synergies at our company if these were available. I do think that they're open to feedback, but obviously they have to make money too, and so they've decided to go along this strategy. But we agree. It's kind of discouraging. Go ahead, Mitch.
Yeah, I forgive my voice. I have a cold, so I'll power through. I think they heard a lot of that feedback and said, well, we could add on to Planner, or we could bring Project for the Web and the other tools in and get get licensing fees, and we already have those features there. So then if we bring them together, then we can just focus on that thing and make it a Planner is a basic thing, and Planner Premium is a premium thing. They're not wrong for that, but it is, discouraging. And if you are hoping for the free version of Planner to be better anytime soon, do not hold your breath.
Yeah.
The features you're seeing are things like resizing a column width and adding another tab so you can see recommended plans. It's like very small quality of life things. They did not share any of the real roadmap for Basic Planner in one of their recent Q&A sessions. So I can't say this is all definite, but they are not giving me the impression that it is something they're focused on.
Switch, recently. Eric, did you want to come off mute? Did you have any other further questions on that? I don't know if we've allowed him, Mitch. Oh, yeah. Thanks. No worries if we've answered your question. Oh, yeah. He goes, no, that's okay. Just frustrated. Same.
I think it's important to note that those features are in two actual separate tools, right? Planner is not Project for the Web. Project for the Web is not Planner. Project for the Web lives in Dataverse, believe it or not. Like, that's where the data is. Like, they're two separate things. For them to add those features to Planner.
Well, but with new Planner,
they're the same. Matt actually has a blog coming out on this next month about some of the logistics behind it. But it's basically both apps wrapped up in one bow.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, but we do still use Planner at our organization as well for what we can get out of it. But I understand if those are really important features to you, then looking elsewhere may be what you end up doing. And Microsoft needs to be aware that a lot of companies will need to do that. Okay, so that was Eric's question. We got another question in here from our friend from New Zealand. So he writes, how is your team using Microsoft Loop to collaborate? Were there any technical and governance barriers for your org to overcome before getting started? We love Loop. We have posted that quite a bit. We've made some videos about it. We're using Microsoft Loop to collaborate on basically anything and everything that we work together on. Microsoft has come out to talk about how Loop is designed to be the center of gravity for a project. It's kind of like the second half of Teams. So Teams is where maybe you have your files stored and you're having meetings and that kind of thing, and you're communicating, but then Loop is really where you can put all those ideas and organize brainstorming sessions, meeting notes, all of that. So those two work together. We're hoping that they'll create more integration, and we've been told that's on the roadmap between Teams and Loop. But I mean, your kind of general question, how are you using Microsoft Loop to collaborate? We're creating one workspace in Loop per project or per initiative that we're working on. So like we have a marketing workspace in Loop, or if we have an engagement with a client, then we have that client's workspace, and then we're putting all of our meeting notes in there. We're using that during all of our meetings for brainstorming or for creating content, and we're even using Microsoft Loop as sort of our presentation tool. So when sharing thoughts, notes, pictures, graphs, whatever it is, we put it in, put a bunch of spaces between different chunks of content, and just scroll through that with clients or within our internal team.
We create agendas in it. We author blog content in it. We author presentations in it. We do project retros in it. Like, you name it, we pretty much do it there. We don't use OneNote anymore. If anybody on our team is using OneNote, raise your hand, but I think we've left that tool behind in favor of Loop. And it's a great tool. You can like copy paste from it right into a SharePoint page. Like if you're authoring SharePoint news content or something like that, you can literally copy paste right from Loop into a SharePoint page, and it just figures it out. Because really underneath the hood, Loop pages are SharePoint pages, if you didn't know it. And so it's just such an effective tool for us. And it works well while we're co-collaborating and all of that kind of stuff. So.
And we have, we're smaller companies, so it has been, when you speak to, or when you asked about kind of any roadblocks or obstacles that we've come across, we're a smaller company, so it's been easy to manage sharing workspaces within our company because it's easy to just add people to workspaces. It's not like I need to go in and add 30 different people to a workspace. I will say I could see that being somewhat of a hurdle until which I know is on the roadmap. They've shared this, that they're going to allow you to add a Microsoft group to a Loop workspace. So that will make it a lot easier and more seamless to share things more widely.
And I think that connects with, is it Danya asked a question, how are you guys making the meeting notes feature work in Loop? We make a standalone new page, but I'd love it if the meetings within Teams Loop notes flowed better into workspaces. So that connection of workspaces to an actual team or group, Microsoft 365 group, will help to facilitate that once it's in place, for sure.
And I mean, how we are doing it, and this is a really good question about how are you guys making meeting notes feature work in Loop. You can take the meeting notes right in your Teams meeting where the Loop pane comes up on the right-hand side of the screen. I don't know if I'll be able to demo it just this minute, but you can create that, and then you can actually link that page to a workspace. It's not the most seamless experience. I often will just set up a notes page in the Loop Sport workspace already, and then I'll just share my screen or share out that link. So I'm not even necessarily using the meeting notes. Can't speak today. The meeting notes feature in Loop. I'm just creating meeting notes and agendas in the Loop workspace I already have set up.
Yep.
What other questions?
So Tanya, our friend who's been around here for a while, is complaining because she doesn't have Loop in GCC.
Yes.
So hopefully that's coming. She has Loop components, so it's starting to show up in some apps in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, but not the Loop app.
We do have a great blog that just came out. Matt dove into the topic of switching from OneNote to Loop and how you can kind of start that transition is using Loop components in OneNote. So that could be a good option as well to be able to still use a lot of the Loop features, just use them as Loop components within your OneNote. I believe that should be an option for GCC. I don't see why it wouldn't. But we can post that blog link. Livy's here in the studio. I think she'll send that over. What else?
Mitch, if you share my screen for a hot second, I can show you what Emma was talking about. I'm in this Teams meeting. Are you sharing? Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Inception just happened. But if you click the little notes icon here at the top of the Teams meeting, you'll get this little loop element that'll open up on the right-hand side where you have agenda, meeting notes, and follow-up tasks. And so then that's all basically created in basically a loop page, kind of pre-built for you there. So that's what she was referring to.
Could you speak up a little bit, please, Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was.
Here, I kind of want to show too. If we pull this out of Mike's computer, will it mess it up for everyone, Mitch? No. Okay.
Oh, sure.
I've got an example up. Let me just switch here quick. Oh yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, and if you didn't,
Oh shoot, I need a toggle. Never mind.
Oh.
It's fine. All right, sorry everyone. We'll share this another time. But
Wah.
I know I have a video on it actually, so we can show that link of how I'm using Loop for project management and just honestly in my everyday day-to-day life. But all I was going to show is someone had commented, oh, that's really creative, you're using Loop as a presentation tool. Honestly, it seems really seamless. If you already have all the brainstorming content in there and you're using the amazing formatting, I think Loop does a great job with formatting headers and checklist notes. You can add emojis, which adds a little bit of color to your thoughts. You just put a bunch of spaces in between each chunk of content, and it allows you to just scroll through kind of like you would click through slides, but it takes a lot of that formatting work off your plate so that it's already done for you. You don't have to transcribe from the brainstorming session into a different document to make it presentable to senior leadership or just to your internal team or whatever it is.
You know how Word has like a million formatting options for your text?
Yeah.
One of the things I like about Loop is it has like heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
And so then when you lay out your outlines or your documents, that's all you get. And then everybody's documents come out the same. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really nice.
And it just, they have obviously done some work on what is going to look clean and not take away from the content you're trying to share, but just be really, easy to read. And there's definitely something to, and I know there's been a million studies done about the white space within, like actually having space between lines, and Loop just sort of adds to that UX.
Yep.
So it's really great. Okay, another comment here. I wish new teams automatically created a group connected workspace for the team instead of pushing OneNote so hard. Amen. I agree. I really wish that Teams and Loop workspaces were more integrated, but I can say, and they've said this publicly in the roadmap, that they are absolutely working towards that and trying to make it more seamless so that your group, your Microsoft group that you have connected to a team, a Microsoft Teams team, and a Loop workspace can be one and the same. We're eagerly waiting that, and honestly, I sort of don't want to teach people to use Loop until they have that, because I think it'll almost make it more clear for beginners to the tool on how to use it. But
there will be so much work for the people that want to get paid to migrate content.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, in my opinion, I think they should have done that from the beginning. But at the same time, I will hand it to Microsoft. They are so passionate about sharing what they're creating before it's perfect, which we are big proponents of. You know, if you wait until everything's all hooked up and integrated, then you never get to use the new things. And I've super enjoyed using Loop the last year. So if they had waited to push it until it was fully integrated with Teams, we would have missed out on just the power of the tool. So hopefully that will come, and you're exactly right. I wish that it worked that way as well. Okay, other comments, questions I'm reading here. Tanya wrote, we don't understand what Microsoft is thinking adding pages to OneDrive. We would rather they focus on adding features to organizational knowledge tools instead of...
That's Matt, just so you know.
Oh, that's Matt. Sorry. Okay. Do I need to respond on any of those? I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I think...
Okay. I was a bit confused. Okay. Another comment here.
Danya?
Yes. Do you guys use the workspace status feature in Loop? Like, I was looking at those where it says you can mark pages with status tags. Just curious if helpful or not. Yes, she upvoted for the simplified formatting. I think what you're referring to are the security labels, unless I don't know of a feature. Status tags, I think, could also probably be called sensitivity labels. Is that the term? Other loopers in the room? Anyone agree?
The thing right underneath the workspace name where you can click status.
The thing underneath the status thing. I have not used that much. We did chat with them about what this page is sort of meant to be, and I think it's meant to be more of a executive overview of what's going on in the workspace. I can't really speak to it, honestly, because I haven't found a lot of value out of it. I don't feel like it works very well yet. That's been my experience. I know that they're working on it and that it came from a really genuine, feedback from everyone that we need easier ways to report out what's going on in like a brainstorming and creation place, especially where it can bring all of the tasks and things together.
Right. Yeah, it's a handy little roll-up feature.
Yeah.
Since we still use Planner and some other tools for a lot of our task management, we're not driving tasks per se out of our notes or our loop workspaces yet, but definitely, Planner and DevOps, right? We use a number of different tools, and so they're not all connected. So we use that a lot less.
Yep. And yes, I see other people commenting here. Thanks for sharing your experience with Loop. Absolutely. It could be the workspace status relies a lot on using the task list component in workspaces. Absolutely. Yep, I felt the same. Just wondered if I was missing something. Thank you. Yeah, I would encourage us to, and I should put a reminder in my own notes, to continue to kind of check back to see what other features they've rolled out on that status piece. But yeah, currently not using it as much as I thought I would. Can you reprise your advice on using tags in Teams for custom notifications, or point me to the content? I think it was in our Total Communication Reset course, maybe. I'm trying to remember what she's talking about. Using tags in Teams for custom notifications. I think what she's
probably talking about tagging people.
Yep, and you can create a specific tag that lists, 12 people that you want or 6 people that you want that don't necessarily have to be a part of a Microsoft team.
A single channel or
yes.
group. Yep.
We just used this, actually, Tanya, with a client of ours. We were helping them create a champions group within their organization of champions on modern work and bringing some of these tools and Copilot and some of these advanced tools to their teams. So they wanted to create a separate list. I can't remember the name they used for it, but it was creative. It was like workplace champions or something. But they created that as a tag and then added the different people, and then you can add notifications and set those to that group. Honestly, Matt Dressel is probably the king of this. He explained how all of it works. I
don't think we have any content on it at the moment. So it might have been like in a previous office hours or something.
I don't know where to create them.
Matt says, do you want me to talk about it?
Musical chairs, Matt Dressel, phone a friend. Come off mute.
Welcome.
Okay. The basic deal is that the way notifications work, when you tag someone, that is how they get immediately notified when you're in channels. But that can be really annoying if I have to tag like 7 or 8 people. In Slack, people join channels independent of the overall workspace. And so then you can mention the channel, and that works well. In Teams, that only works if they have shown the channel. So if they've hidden the channel, which is similar to Slack, but it's a little bit different. So the key here is that to kind of fill in that gap and make it a little bit easier, you can create tags. So you create tags in the settings of the team. So you would go in, it's manage team, and then there's a setting, tags option. You can create tags, and then you can assign people to tags. People can be assigned to multiple tags. But that is a way to basically allow you to seamlessly mention people that are in a particular group, and people can leave the group, come into the group. They can find those tags that are related to that particular topic, rather than saying, Mike Bodell, at Emma, at, if we were on a team with our customers, it might be a bulb tag, which would be the bulb team that's part of the team. And then if someone wanted to tag the bulb team, anyone that we as the owners put in that group would get notified.
Yep. Which we found.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, and we're always really honest about this. We use Slack as well at our company, but we have found that this has allowed other companies who are using only Microsoft Teams to kind of create just a more custom experience. And we know a lot of people got frustrated about how many notifications they were getting, and Microsoft has started to listen to that and made some updates, especially within the channel space, to make this easier for people to personalize to what their preferences are. All right, so we're getting a lot more questions coming in. We're going to jump on this next one in a minute. I just want to reset the room here, let everyone know if you're joining us for the first time, we are Bulb Digital. This is our office hours where we answer questions that you might have about Microsoft tools or just initiatives where you're trying to create a more modern workplace. So no stupid questions here. Feel free to ask away about any of the new Microsoft tools or old ones that you're using. Mike is very good on Excel as well. So feel free to ask us really any spectrum of questions. And if you're joining on YouTube, put those questions in the chat or on our Teams meeting, meaning you pre-registered. Feel free to ask questions in that chat.
I forgot to wear my Excel shirt.
Yeah, I know. You've got a great one. All right, so next question here. It says, how do you get your colleagues in loop? What I hear a lot is, what problem does it solve? That's actually really interesting. I don't think we've struggled getting anyone in loop because all of us here didn't like OneNote. So that's been an easy transition. For people who love OneNote, you would kind of want to offer that soft transition of starting to show them the features of Loop in a Loop component within OneNote. That might be an easier transition, but there are so many features in Loop that do not exist in something like OneNote or a Word document, for example. You're just really missing out on a lot of high-value features. One that's coming to mind right now is running a retrospective with your team. So you could use Whiteboard for this, but it's not as seamless. Loop comes built in with a bunch of different templates. So you just use that little slash menu and write team retrospective, and the whole thing is populated for you of what went well, what could we do better next time, what could save us time. You can create these boards in the click of a button, and you can't do that in these other tools. So that would just be one example of, if you're chatting with someone and they're like, well, what problem does it solve? What's so great about it? It's kind of like what's not to love, There's so many extra features that you just don't have in a simple notes app like OneNote or Word or PowerPoint. And then obviously the formatting we've already talked about, the ease of collaboration, the real-time edits that you can make. You can leave each other comments. Mike was mentioning we write blogs in these. It makes reviewing a lot easier. You can upvote things. You can offer encouragement. You can collapse things into headings. People get so distracted with formatting in Word and Excel, and Loop just blazes past all that nonsense. Completely agree. That's a great comment, Danya. Also, documents shared from personal OneDrives are agreed, pain in the ass to track. Make a Loop Workspace nest page. So you can organize your notes, I think, a lot more intuitively than OneNote ever could. I know you could nest in OneNote, but anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on how great Loop is. If anyone at your workplace is saying Loop isn't worth it, send them to me. I'll send them straight. So I think that'd be my 2 cents. All right, what other questions? I think Loop suits the curator-gatherer style of teamwork. Agreed. Truly bringing everything together on one page. Thanks, I might just do that. Yeah. I mean, seriously, though, that's like what we do at Bulb Digital. So if you're struggling getting your team to change or to become more modern, that is literally the types of projects we do. You can hire us. We will come in for whatever amount of time. Usually it's around 4 weeks, but we put together a team with you and we offer training, different strategic sessions, getting all of what we offer to align with your business goals. Help your team adopt and actually see change and add value to their work streams.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to make change all by yourself.
Yeah.
You're just one individual. You may be passionate about the tools and innovating, but then you get stuck because the organization isn't moving. And so we get asked questions. How do you get the team on board? How do you get that to happen? And we do workshop projects. We do a few different ways, or we have a few different ways that we can help organizations with that type of adoption.
Yeah. Yeah, but we get it. It is hard. Change is hard. Change is hard for everyone. I did not switch to New Outlook until like 3 months ago. So I sometimes you don't always want to embrace the new tools, but I think with Loop, we've had such a great working relationship with Microsoft as part of their TAP group, and understanding they've put out a lot of webinars as well. And we could even link to that, their 5-part webinar series they recently did of why they created the tool, what its purpose is, how it's meant to work, the problems it's meant to solve. And kind of when you can hear that why or what was in their mind when they were putting it together, that also really helps explain.
And I would say that I've not been directly involved with that Loop Tap team, but from what I've heard from everyone else, it seems to be very interested in feedback and very passionate about what they're producing and the user experience, which is really refreshing, honestly, for a product team from Microsoft.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to find that link for that Loop learning series. It's like a 5-part series. They had posted it all over LinkedIn and different things. Cool. I don't know if there's other questions I missed. We're kind of trying out a new question and answer thing, so I can see things on the screen here, but shout out to
I don't
me.
see anything new.
The same question if you asked it and we missed it. So what are we working on right now? I want to share with you guys. You're like our inside group here on Office Hours. We are putting together a lot of content around project management. One of the things we talked about at, a few sessions ago was the difference between process management and project management. And a lot of people we work with actually just want to manage processes. So that's things they do every single month, or maybe they do it every 6 months or annually. And trying to use things like Planner to manage processes doesn't always work seamlessly, because these tools have been created to manage more start, stop, start date, end date.
Personal task management as opposed to enterprise. Yeah.
So we're going to try to break down how we feel you can use these tools to the best of your ability for both process versus project management, and then also where task management falls in both of those, right? Because in processes, maybe you want a task to show up every month to remind you, I got to run, PTO reminders to all of my employees. But it's not really project management, right? But you've got a task that you want a reminder for. On project management, you might want the same tasks at the beginning of every project to create a template and then start each project that way. All of these are useful pursuits in using these tools, but you might have a different approach. So that's what I'm working on the next couple of weeks and months. If you have feedback, we do have a link. I'm going to put Mitch on the spot to post that. If you have ideas about what would help you at your organization as it pertains to project management and the tools, I would love to hear those as I'm putting this content together. We have a feedback form of some sort that Mitch can post.
And we've gotten a lot of good feedback through that already. There's been a ton of response. So.
Yeah. So we'll post that. What are you working on, Mike?
I'm doing a lot of hard work, 'cause that's what I do,
Mike's captain of the hard work team at our organization.
Self-ascribed.
Work smarter, not harder. That's my motto.
I'm doing a lot of Power Platform solution development and a lot of stuff with model-driven apps. So a lot of the content that is in the top of my head that comes out in my blog posts and videos is related to model-driven apps and Power Platform and no-code, low-code development, and a lot of the benefits of it and things you can do with it. And so that's kind of where my head has been at.
Yeah.
Pretty solid for the last several months, to be honest. So
it's not bad. It's kind of fun.
Good stuff.
Work. And I think it's adding a lot of value as well. One of the things Mike and I were talking about this morning was, obviously we both have our regular full-time day job where I'm a project manager managing our projects, and Mike is, working on a lot of different projects and actual work. But then we also are balancing sharing what we're learning with other folks. So whether that's our YouTube channel or through blogs or through here on Office Hours, and just the tension, but also the pros and cons of, focusing on the work you're doing and everything that is working for your actual project work. And then how do I share my learnings out with other folks? So
yeah, we have a lot of good outlets for that. Our community is another good one, right?
Yeah,
we share ideas in the community, but then also internally, right? There's a few of us on the team that are working on similar things that I'm working on, and we're often like, oh, hey, I just figured this out. This is interesting, and so we're excited to show that off to other people. And the conversation this morning revolved around how tempting it is to want to just be heads down and do the hard work. But then if you do that, you lose out on the reward that happens when you're mentoring people or helping other people. And so I think our statement here is encourage you to do the same thing with people around you and where you can inside of your circles, because I mean it's so rewarding, and then you get to see the downstream effects of it, and that's kind of at the heart of our core mission, which is to make others successful. So,
well, and I think to go back to Peter's question, comment, whatever it was, of, you know, how do you get other people to adopt these tools or to use them yourselves, and then show people how much time it saved you, or what a better quality output you may have had. And that's absolutely what we do within our team. I'm getting schooled by these guys all the time of, hey, did you know you could do it this way, or have you tried this? We just had a thread the other day of all the keyboard shortcuts that we all use. One that I had shared, which I think it was Mitch that originally, I have to give him credit where credit's due, taught me this. If you've ever been in a Teams meeting and you're sharing your screen, you get that toolbar at the top, which is super annoying. I think in classic Teams, you can't even move it. In new Teams, at least you can move the toolbar, but it's always right in the way of where you're trying to switch tabs at the top of your browser. Well, if you click that toolbar and hit Control-W, if you've got a PC computer, it will close out that toolbar and just move it right out of the way, and you don't have to worry about it the rest of the meeting. There's like little hacks like this that, you know, when you sort of start sharing those with other people, they'll start to look to you as, hey, you figured out how to use these tools a better way. And it's been fun to share that internally. And then, like you mentioned, Mike, we've got the Workplace, which is our digital community. You can sign up for a membership fee, and we share these tips with each other, as well as all the people in the community. They're like-minded individuals who are using these tools for more productivity.
I'll promote another one of our socials.
Yeah.
Sometimes we drip these types of tips out on our TikTok too.
Yeah. We're that modern. We've got a TikTok.
We have a TikTok.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
It's fantastic.
Please upvote if you'd like to see Mike dance on our TikTok, because I think that could get a lot of views.
I'll do it.
It'd be very fun. And YouTube Shorts has been fun too. I've learned a lot from YouTube Shorts, so.
I'm hip.
All this stuff, I know. Well, guys, give us more questions. We're here for you. What else are other people working on? Go ahead and post in the chat. Mike and I are here for another 10, 15 minutes, so let us know.
You could do a TikTok right now.
A live TikTok?
Live TikTok.
No thanks. If you can't tell, I don't love.
All right, we have a question.
Oh, we have a question.
Elizabeth asked a question.
Okay.
Yay.
I'll read this one out. I'm trying to add users into the Microsoft 365 environment who are volunteer board and committee members, trade association, so that I can share SharePoint file repository, Teams, and other collaborative tools. Is there an easier way to do this than having them create an authenticated guest account? Great question.
That's a good question. So they're all external users. And so unless you actually give them an internal account, that would be part of your trade association, so they'd be a licensed user at some level. You really have to allow them to authenticate with their Microsoft account. And so ultimately there's not a super great way to do it. The tools do allow people to access them as an external user, so SharePoint does that very well. You can do it with Teams as well. So those tools work, but it's not always seamless, and so sometimes there can be challenges. Where we face some of those challenges with external users is, if your tenant requires multi-factor authentication, and they've got to have that set up, and if their external account is just a Gmail account, for example, it's a personal account, not an enterprise account, sometimes that's a challenge. They have to create a Microsoft account to work from, and so those are some of the challenges that come along with that.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. Some of it depends on just, what you are trying to share with them. Like what we'll do is we'll just share a shared folder of certain files that we're trying to share. But if you're actually trying to have, conversations in Teams and that sort of thing, you do have to go that next step to create more of a shared hub, if you will.
Yep.
But not great experience with the external sharing. I think it's gotten a lot better, though, than honestly it used to be.
It is better. I have one customer right now that all of their primary users who work in a specific capacity for them are volunteers, basically. They're not full-time employees, so they don't have license accounts. And they're doing quite a bit. They're uploading video content, they're submitting forms, they're doing a lot of things using just the free tools, just SharePoint, for example, as the primary tool. There are other ways to do what you're asking to do. You could go as far as to create a Power Pages portal and allow integration or connection with them that way, and then they can log in and they don't necessarily have to be added to your environment per se. They just get added to the portal, and then you can share documents and do things there. If you actually want to collaborate on documents and things like that, then SharePoint or Teams is going to be the way to go.
Yeah, we hope that helped. All right. Other question. Oh, this is a divisive question from Danya. I love it.
Really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Elizabeth was following up on her comment saying she wants them to be able to edit and add files, collaborate as teams for projects and committee work.
Okay.
Yep, so then SharePoint and Teams is going to be the tool, and you just need to make sure that they have contribute access to your SharePoint site or add it as members to your team, and they'll be able to collaborate.
All right. On to my favorite question today so far, because I have a passionate feeling about this. Danya asks, have you felt that Copilot can actually replace ChatGPT? Like, is it just as good at answering GPT prompts? Oh, Danya, I have been testing this for the last probably, 7-8 months since we've gotten our Copilot license. But my answer has probably changed over the last maybe 2 months. I actually think Copilot is doing a lot better. I find myself going to Copilot, well, number one, because it is secure, but number two, on things that it doesn't matter if I'm testing out Copilot or ChatGPT, like I'm just trying to throw together ideas for literally whatever, it's not confidential. I have found myself using Copilot, and it truly is, in my opinion, just as good as ChatGPT as of recently. I don't think that was true when we first started using it. I don't know all the ins and outs on the back end of what has changed with Copilot. Maybe Mitch does and has some thoughts, but
ChatGPT now uses, Copilot uses ChatGPT 4.0, which is their more recent model.
Yeah.
Which now I did get confirmation it's fully integrated into Copilot. So that's probably why you're starting to see better answers from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And obviously the obvious benefit
from Copilot. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. So Copilot has gotten better because it's using more similar.
And the obvious benefit to Copilot is that it can reach out and gather information from all of your internal content as well.
Yeah. And when it comes to Copilot being used for searching, we call it like interrogating meeting transcriptions, but being able to ask Copilot questions of your chats or your meetings. I think you actually just commented back. I was winding up to beg my CFO for a Copilot license for querying chats and meetings, but GPT is like my coworker. LOL, I use it to write formulas and clean data and craft communications, etc. Thank you for the insight. That's awesome to hear about the integration. Yeah, so I will say, when you're talking about Copilot or AI, there are so many different uses, right? So when I'm just creating, I just did this. I had coffee with a potential client this morning, wanted to write her an email back of the things we talked about. I don't even write emails anymore without AI's help, which is maybe sad to admit, but it's just easier to throw in. I had a list of things I wanted to tell her about, and so I threw all that together and asked Copilot to put it together. I think 3 months ago, I would have asked ChatGPT to do that. Now I use Copilot for that. But I am exclusively using Copilot for questions of transcriptions, meeting information, that kind of thing, recapping notes.
Right. Yeah, it's great for that if you're using transcription in Teams. You don't have to take notes anymore.
Yeah.
Just remember to turn that on, and then at the end of the meeting, it's like, okay, tell me what I got to do.
Yep. Tell me what the action items are. Put them in a table. So we do love Copilot. We use it a lot. I think ChatGPT will continue to get better, and hopefully Copilot will continue to follow suit. But for my uses, I'm pretty much exclusively using Copilot, at least at work. Excuse me.
All right, there is another question. Eric is asking, with our recent purchase of E5 comes Power BI Pro, So we're wrapping our heads around governance of this tool. Any experience with Purview, the audit tool for Power BI? So that's a good question. Purview is a tool that can be used to audit and manage more than just Power BI. It can be used to manage a number of apps and things in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. I don't have a lot of direct experience with it. I've used it a little bit to push apps to devices and things like that. We generally we focus on internal communication, collaboration, building apps and things like that. We tend to stay out of the managed service provider space, so we're not a managed IT shop. So I don't have a real good answer for that specifically. Matt Dressel may know a little bit more about it, but that's generally not in our wheelhouse. We'll get our hands dirty in it if somebody asks us to, but it's not right up our alley at the moment.
Yeah. And then back on this Copilot topic, Danya was writing, I wish I could auto-force all of our meetings to have transcription enabled. I agree. I feel like I've looked into this and it's not possible. I don't think you can set up a meeting to have recording or transcription start, I believe, or at least recording for sure. And then when you join the meeting, it will just automatically start. But I never configure my meetings like that. It's always jump on the meeting and then before you really dive into the content, make sure you're pressing that either record or transcribe button because you need both of those to get the transcription you need one or the other to be able to use Copilot. So I was just commenting back on YouTube for our Teams folks. I said, I hate when I forget to turn it on because, it only takes one of those meetings to think you've got Copilot on and then realize you don't. And then you have to go back and actually do all the old school manual note taking, which...
Well, in that scenario, you probably forgot to take notes anyways. So
yeah, right. So then you have to try to remember everything that happened. But one of the questions Microsoft asks us a lot in feedback forms is, if we told you we were going to take this feature away tomorrow, how do you feel, like scale of 1 to 10 or whatever? And Copilot, off the charts for me. If I wasn't able to use Copilot moving forward again, it would definitely affect my workflow. Because it's just, honestly, it saves you so much time when you can recap meetings in 2 minutes flat. So
yeah, between that and Loop, the world has changed dramatically in the last 2 years.
It really has.
It's fantastic.
Transcription alone works for Teams Premium. Hallelujah. People are weird about recording. I agree. Yeah. The way, actually, I learned this one from Mitch. Another credit to Mitch. I always use this he always uses this phrase kind of when you got to transcribe. Just say, like, so that I don't have to be, writing down. What do you say, Mitch?
So
you always
that
have
so that I don't have to
take notes
right?
this whole time, it's just
right.
so that I can be more present in this discussion. Yep. Do you mind if I turn on transcription? And I haven't seen someone say no to that yet, but okay. Another question. I asked Copilot to make a meeting with the sender of the email tomorrow at noon to go over this email, but Copilot can't in my environment anyway. Gotcha. I feel like...
Is that because Copilot's not enabled in your environment, or... Like, that's a...
No, there's...
Mitch is going to give us a feedback on this.
It's sort of... I went into it a little bit in one of my videos. Microsoft does not say, Copilot, you can do whatever a user can do in the tenant. I give you full access. Microsoft is very selective about the things Copilot can and can't do. It does not do the same for reading information. It does use very similar information to influence how it might answer something and get all of its context from places. But as far as like carrying out an actual action, it is not there yet.
Yeah.
It cannot do these little trivial actions in the context of like integrating between multiple tools. You might find yourself in a specific tool and have it edit a document for you or something. But even then, it's like you can do some things, but you can't have it delete content for you. It's very selective. So. And
I can see how that would be a bit frustrating if that's how you're approaching trying to use it. One thing I'm just kind of reflecting on here is I really only use I use Copilot almost exclusively in the Copilot app on my browser. I never actually use the app through my desktop, but I don't even use the Copilot feature in Outlook, even though that's what I'm using it for. If I'm creating an email, I do that in, because I'm so used to, that was my ChatGPT experience. I always just have ChatGPT up on a browser. So I use it almost exclusively to create content within the browser experience app or whatever. But yes, I can see how that would be annoying that it doesn't allow just to create a meeting. So
I mean, they're mitigating risk, right?
yeah.
As Mitch kind of alluded to it, if they allowed it to do everything a user can do, and you just spoke all of these things into existence, it could be produce some unwanted results.
Yeah.
To be clear, I imagine it's coming. Literally the title I used was it's almost amazing, because it's like so close to being able to do all this stuff. It just takes Microsoft to enable those sorts of things and say, yes, it's okay for you to do this. I imagine they're starting small and building over time, and it'll start
Bring
to
us
feel
to that.
we're going to look back a year or two from now and be like, remember when it couldn't do this?
Right.
That was so silly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously we're already seeing the benefits of the things it can do, and so much more to come. So on that positive note, we're going to wrap up today's session. Thank you, Mitch, for giving your thoughts from behind the desk. So this has been Emma and Mike, Bulb Digital Office Hours. We hope to see you again next month. We'll be here whatever the first Wednesday of November is, and we'll kick off hunting season for Mike with an Office Hours in November. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your questions, and we hope to talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.